Welcome to this week's episode of the DevOps Lab. We have an exciting new series coming up about the DevOps Dojo. So tune in as we kick off the introduction to the DevOps Dojo, what it is, how it transpired, and all the great things coming down the line. Welcome to this week's episode of the DevOps Lab. In this week's episode, we're going to be kicking off an amazing series called the DevOps Dojo. Now, to start this series, we're going to introduce two fantastic people, Khan and Dave. Welcome both.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, depending on where and when you're watching this. My name is Dave Burnison. I'm a technical advocate from GitHub.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name's Khan. I am the DevOps Dojo community lead at Microsoft.
Thank you both for joining us. And I'm really excited about this series because all of us have been working together on the DevOps Dojo series that's come out in a blog, and now we're going to do a video. So you two are going to kick it off for us today and tell us, what is the DevOps Dojo and how did it get started?
Excellent. Happy to get started here. So today we're going to walk through kind of what is, DevOps at Microsoft product groups and how Microsoft has become a high-performing DevOps company, and then how we use DevOps with GitHub these days, and then talk about how we can share all of these learnings with you through DevOps Dojo so that you can become a high-performing DevOps company. So let me get into the background information here.
Cool.
So the definition of Microsoft DevOps may seem obvious, but the journey to get to this point actually includes many different products and teams at Microsoft with their own challenges and struggles and histories. And different teams used to have different tools and different processes. And those individual teams had large ongoing investments in these different tools and processes, which frankly was very costly and burdensome. But under our current CEO, Satya Nadella, we acknowledge the need for modern DevOps practices and tools for all Microsoft products and services. And we're a long way on the journey, and we still have a lot to learn. But there are lessons we've learned so far that can be shared with you. Things like being customer-focused, providing teams autonomy, and shifting left are basically second-decade agile. And DevOps brings a product-first mindset and infrastructure as a flexible resource, just to mention a few things, brings those kind of things into play. And we've got to where we are now over a long time, and it's been a very iterative process, but we're not done. We still have a lot to learn. Microsoft was not born in the cloud some 40-odd years ago. Microsoft has had to learn to adjust, as many large enterprises have had to learn and adjust to continue to innovate and stay competitive. Now, here are some of the key adjustments we've made. We've adopted a growth mindset. We've created a culture of customer obsession. We've aligned to shared objectives. So let's unpack each of these a little bit. Now, by adopting a growth mindset, we mean that we're looking to continually improve rather than proving intelligence. One of the things Satya said is, we don't want to be a bunch of know-it-alls. We want to be a bunch of learn-it-alls. Continue to learn new and emerging best practices and apply those to our craft. And it's that collective intelligence versus lone genius. We can achieve more as a team collaborating and working together rather than a single individual who knows it all. And also looking at failure differently. Not saying that failure is not an option, but failure breeds success. We know there's going to be bumps and stumbles along the way, but can we look at those failures in a blameless way and identify the root cause and make changes so that we're continually improving and getting better based on how we learn from those failures. And now when we look at creating a culture of customer obsession, we're talking about collaborating with our customers, striving for zero distance to our customers and collecting their feedback and making sure that we prioritize features based on customer impact. What's going to help them do their jobs more effectively, more efficiently, and in a more timely manner? And also establishing trust by ensuring security and privacy, making sure that those things are built right into all of our products. Now, one that we really want to focus on here is aligning two shared objectives. Now, 1ES that you see there, that's our one enterprise system. So that is our center of excellence for DevOps and software development here at Microsoft. And what Satya said was there cannot be a more important thing for engineer or product team than to work on systems that drive productivity. So I would any day of the week trade off features for our own productivity, because I want our best engineers to work on our engineering system so that we can then come back and build all the new exciting concepts that we want. So what do we do at 1ES? We're working to achieve a world-class company-wide engineering system, create a community of practice to help drive tooling, culture, and process learnings across the company, creating integrated and connected services, promoting reuse both internally and externally, and building privacy, security, and accessibility standards right into our workflow. And one engineering system is at the center of all the different product groups, all the different business units at Microsoft. And we're not saying that every product group and business unit has to work exactly the same, but 1ES provides best practices and guidelines for modern DevOps practices. It does more or less mandate things related to security and compliance and everything, so that you can be assured that the products that are coming from Microsoft all live up to the same security and compliance standards and everything. Now, based on the telemetry collected by 1ES, we can see that Microsoft has over 165,000 monthly engaged users on Azure DevOps. And there are more than 27,000 repos in GitHub and in Azure repos. And there are over 10 million builds each month with 5.7 million releases. Now, this is not to say that Microsoft is re-releasing Office 365 or Azure DevOps multiple times each day, but there may be a release that turns on a feature flag for a set of private preview users or provides a timely bug fix. Now, having 1ES as our DevOps and software development center of excellence has led to Microsoft becoming a high-performing DevOps organization, as evidenced by these numbers. Now let's talk about how DevOps and GitHub come into play here. Microsoft's mission statement is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And GitHub's vision is to be the home for all developers. So bringing those together, we have GitHub, the home for your DevOps tools, empowering more than 73 million users to achieve more for their organizations. So becoming a high-performing DevOps organization does not happen overnight. It's a journey. And we want to help you start your journey to becoming a high-performing DevOps organization by sharing the Microsoft Product Group's learnings and using the largest and most advanced development platform in the world, GitHub. Now, based on the learnings from Microsoft and GitHub product groups, our goal is to guide you in learning how to provide continuous planning, continuous collaboration, continuous security, continuous integration, continuous delivery, continuous operations, and continuous improvement for your software development teams. And it doesn't matter if you're in a technical role, such as a developer, tester, DevOps engineer, operations, member of the security team, or if you're part of leadership, a program manager, a project manager, a designer, or whatever your role is, we have something for you. As long as you're interested in helping your organization become a high-performing DevOps organization, then DevOps Dojo is for you. Many customers want to learn from what Microsoft has done. Now let me hand it over to Con Tang to talk about DevOps at Microsoft Services and DevOps Dojo, where we share these learnings to help your organization become a high-performing DevOps organization.
Thank you, Dave. That was great. Con, really looking forward to hearing your take on this and where we're going with it.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. So now you heard the background stories, right, from a PG. Let's zoom into the services. People always say that, right, when you sell software, it's about the transaction. Selling software is about selling experience. And selling services is about selling promise. Well, promise you need to trust, right? What about the trust? What do you need to trust? Well, first of all, you have to understand the problem, the customer problem, and then you can gain trust. So let's take a look at it. What is actually the DevOps problem, right? DevOps transformation is people transformation. It's a really culture transformation. This is one of the diagrams I use quite often, right? To look at it, what does it mean transformational? In order to do anything transformational, you really need a vision, you need a consensus, you need the skills, you need incentives, you need the resources, and you need an action plan. Because without a vision, you're going to generate a lot of confusion. And if you don't have consensus, right, you probably will see sabotage. And if you don't have skills, you're going to generate a lot of anxiety. And if you don't have incentive, you will say, what's enough for me, right? And you're going to have a lot of resistance. If you don't have resource, I guarantee you're going to have a lot of frustration. And then if you don't have an action plan, you're going to just go into run the treadmill, right? So now in the DevOps as a service, we understand our customer, right? So those are the areas really we need to look into. Now, the next question is, what is DevOps? Because if you do a Google search, you probably can find many definitions. What is DevOps? For us in Microsoft Services, we really say, well, let's look at using a McKinsey framework called MISI, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive, because this MISI framework allows us to look at holistically, right? What is DevOps, but also bring clarity. The mutually exclusive actually is a lot harder than you imagine, right? But once you can do that, you really bring a lot of clarity. And so if you look at this MISI framework, right? Really, the people, the challenges is almost 50%, the process 40%, and the technology is about 10%. It's not saying technology is not important. You will not get to do your technology transformation before you address the people and the process challenges, right? So we understand that, and we put a stake on the ground and said, this is what we mean DevOps. Now, once we have that broader understanding, and now we need to look at it, say, we need to create a DevOps taxonomy. And so you might wonder, what is a taxonomy, right? DevOps taxonomy. It's a really common language. It's a common structure, allow us to actually work together. So it's alignment tool. And as a matter of fact, right, we spent probably 6 months debating, among the multiple BUs, and there's a lot of heated debate at the end, and we landed this DevOps taxonomy. And believe it or not, right, this has been one of the best decisions we made, because it really allow us to actually have that common language we can communicate each other. Well, that's just a piece of paper, right? So if you look at a diagram, DevOps is really cultural change, mindset change. But where do we start, right? If you want to change culture, change mindset. And we borrowed this quote from Malcolm Gladwell, right, from his the Tipping Point book. If you want to bring a fundamental change in people's belief and behavior, you really need to create a community around it, right? And where all those beliefs and a practice we can really express and nurture, right? So with that, with the understanding, and we say, well, we need to create community. So this is the birth of DevOps Dojo, and we actually start from a community, right? And in this community, we have people from all walks of life, really, right? From all walks of life, from a different region, from a different background, from even different business unit, right? We're coming together. Well, like anything, right? When you create a community or create a group, you need to have mission. We understood that. So we also spend the time say, why we even exist, right? This DevOps Dojo and this community. So the first one, we said we want to solve the hardest problem in DevOps, which, as you probably seen, right, is the people, is the mindset, is the actual, the people working together created this economic flow, right? So we want to solve the hardest problem. And at the core of DevOps is the culture. We really want to walk the talk, right? We want to leverage all the PG we have learned, actually bring into the customer, bring into the services, really accelerate that culture. That's really at the core of DevOps Dojo. We want to make a DevOps real, right? We want to continuously improve. We want to do A/B testing, right? We want to do a lot of things, really make it real. So this also has been guided us through all those years in terms of making decisions. And we always look at it and say, why do we even exist? We look at these three elements. Now, you heard the product group, you heard our services, all the foundations. Let's zero into actually what is DevOps Dojo and why do we even use the name Dojo? So Dojo as a martial arts really encompass the philosophy, the virtual, right? We strive to practice and amplify every day. And really, that's what we always say. Dojo requires the disciplined people, the disciplined thoughts, the disciplined actions. So if you look at it, the whole dojo is not, sometimes people actually do make mistakes, say, oh, dojo is just the training, everything. It is a part of it, right? It's a skill training. But actually, more importantly, is the culture, is the mindset transformation, right? Is that discipline, right? We embed into our daily work. Well, like any dojo, right? Any martial arts, we have a belt. So we have 4 belts, as you can see here. There's a little bit different meaning of each belt, right? So the white belt is a standardized DevOps. Let's say you have a few teams, right? Feature team, you really want to deliver the product into production. It's a 4 to, let's say, 6 teams. I think a white belt should be able to empower you, enable you. Orange belt, though, it's a scale, right? If you look at the Windows, we have, I think, over 11,000 people in the organization. Scaling is very different, a problem than just a pilot, right? So there's a lot of things you have to talk about: the process, the architecture, the people, the organization. So Orange Belt actually will give you the scaling part of DevOps. And then when we reach to the green belt, we actually call industry lens the DevOps. So we take the lens to look at the DevOps, for example, right? The accessibility, which, most of governments, agency, we have to comply all the accessibility standards. SRE for some of the more advanced, right? Customer, they really want to, enable the SRE, and some of the banks, they really absolutely need the security, end-to-end privacy, and so on. So we have a different green belts, and then at the end we have a black belt, which we call intelligent-driven DevOps. So everything we do is based data-driven, right? We do the metrics, we do the KPIs, we use DORA KPIs, and we continuously improve. So that's the black belt. So sometimes people also make mistakes, say, well, Dojo is just the readiness, but it is, that's the sort of when we started, right, for the training, for the enable people. But you have to understand that what's behind the scene, the foundation is very solid, because we cover people, process, technology, we cover business, IT, human-centric design. And as you can see, we actually have an end-to-end test solution. And we use Microsoft and GitHub, a credible operating model actually is a part of a Dojo. And all the products and IPs actually harvested by the worldwide community of practice. We believe in the wisdom of the crowd. It really worked for all of us. And at the end, of course, we're fully integrated with our technology, Azure, GitHub, Azure DevOps, and open source. So finally, I want to answer the question. Dave, right, asked, say, well, product group has showed tremendous movement from a DevOps became an elite member. Now, all the customer want to learn from us. So I want to actually answer the question, how we can help customer become a high-performing organization. So we understand DevOps is a journey, right? You might be in a very different spectrum of the DevOps journey, but we want to put together this end-to-end solution together. And we definitely suggest starting from Envision workshop. That means we want to understand where you're heading to, what is your OKR, what is your roadmap, what is your strategy, and we'll also want to explain what we have done, the lessons we have, right? So really envision your future. We do, right, very important part of DevOps is your C-level executives, right? We need the sponsorship. And so we actually talked to a lot of customers. They said we actually need to be educated, for example, for the Lean product, for the cultural change, for the transformations, for the OKR, right? So we can actually help the executive level really have a better understanding, have the sponsorship. And then once you have that, we have something called, that's actually the powerhouse of DevOps Learn Sprint Zero, which is bring all the practice actually come into a backlog of item. So we'll work with the customer, really meet where they're at, and implement what really, right, that's the best fit for them. So we create a list of backlog based on the need. And of course, the natural next step normally will be, we say, well, based on all this, so now we have sponsorship. Now we understand your maturity level. What's the next step? Well, we need to do culture change. We really need to enable people. We need to bring alignment, right? So DevOps Dojo Masterclass is a great vehicle for that. And of course, everything I've done this part, right, we're still talking, enabling, but at the end of the day, you actually have to do pilot, you have to implement, you have to take all the learning into your actual real application, the system transformation. And of course, you need to continuously improve. So that basically I think I'll give you enough view of the what is DevOps Dojo. And before I hand over to April, I'm going to end with our DevOps Dojo blogs. Those are the upcoming blogs, as you can see, right? 12 of them are very exciting topics.
Con, thank you. I'm very excited for everyone watching. We have 12 videos aligning to the 12 blogs. All 12 blogs will be out on DevBlogs. And I want to thank you both, Con and Dave, for presenting today, introducing to us what DevOps Dojo is, how it's transpired, and how you both have transformed such a very difficult topic and broken up to really great bite-sized chunks. And I want to thank you so much for that.
It's been my pleasure to be here, April. Looking forward to the future ones.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Everyone, please tune in. We have a series of 12 coming, blogs coming as well, lots of information. And each one of these blogs is super informative that shares not only our story, but how you can help transform your organization. So tune in for the next few episodes and catch up on the DevOps Dojo.